Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast, part of the National Bleav Network. And joining me are a couple of experts on the Texans draft picks. First up is Iowa State insider Rob Gray, who covers the Cyclones, or as Texans fans know it, Receiver U for the Cyclone Fanatic and the Cedar Rapids Gazette. Great to have you on the show, Rob, and can't wait to talk about our new receiving tandem, Jayden and Jaylin.
Yeah, pleasure to join you, Robert. Pretty unique situation, obviously, with those two guys getting drafted by the same team.
I assume there's some excitement among Iowa State fans that those guys are reunited down here.
Oh, no question. I mean, social media will tell you. I mean, and obviously within the confines of the Iowa State's facilities, I mean, they're obviously extremely excited too. I mean, seems like I don't want to say it's certainly rare for Iowa State to have two guys of top 3-round caliber at that position that could go so close together, and fit, for one team in particular, in this case, the Texans. And from the Texas perspective, I mean, we heard how, glowingly they spoke of both of these guys and of Iowa State's program. It just makes perfect sense to get guys who are already roommates. I mean, I wrote a story about how they became fishing buddies after Higgins transferred in from Eastern Kentucky, and Noel, of course, was already there. You have that relationship already among, a receivers room that I know there's some really good guys there, but certainly some flux there as well. Seems to be a really good situation all around.
Unfortunately, there's a good chance new Iowa State guys might put ex-Cyclone Xavier Hutchinson, his job in jeopardy. Nico, Christian Kirk, Jayden, and Jaylin are locks, I think, to make the roster. Hutch, Mechie, Justin Watson, and Braxton Berrios will be fighting for those last couple of spots. So, I know they have definitely a relationship with Hutch, but his job's going to be a little in jeopardy because of those guys.
Yeah, that's a tough deal, but that's, the NFL, that's pro sports, right? I mean, I know that the way X comported himself was one of the reasons they liked Iowa State. I know, over the, few years he's been there with the Texans. But yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it would be, I know Jaylin actually, I Bleav his freshman season, true freshman, played quite a bit, was Hutchinson's last season at Iowa State. So definitely a little bit of overlap there, but it's all business, like they say, once you get to the NFL.
Well, let's go ahead and start with second-round pick Jayden Higgins, the first guy picked, who compares himself to Larry Fitzgerald, but some draft gurus compared him to Nico Collins. He's also, prior to the Texans drafting him, said that one of the guys he learned a lot from watching film and he's taken inspiration from is Andre Johnson. So, Rob, what will Texans fans love about the Jayden Higgins experience?
Well, they'll love his size. They'll love his route running. He's a very eager and capable blocker in the run game as well. Obviously a big play threat. I Bleav he had 10 touchdown season, averaged 18.5 yards a catch at Eastern Kentucky, and then came to Iowa State and immediately became just a great touchdown target. The jump ball situations, the fades, go and get the ball. You want Jayden Higgins to be in that spot. And he showed that in the Senior Bowl as well. I mean, sat out the Iowa State Bowl game, the Pop-Tarts Bowl win over Miami. Interestingly, Jaylin didn't. And had a huge game. They didn't win that game without him, but his last game in an otherwise very disappointing Big 12 title game, blowout loss to Arizona State, Higgins has over 100 yards catch in receptions. And he's a guy that will surprise you with that athleticism because you see his size. So I think he's the total package as a receiver. I don't know how quickly it translates, but I feel like he's experienced, B, he's physically mature, and C, he's a great teammate, and he'll do just about anything necessary to get on the field.
Gotta say, my favorite trait, though, of any trait a wide receiver can have, great hands. I'm just blown away. He's only had 4 drops and 295 targets since 2022. We've gotten so spoiled, Rob, over the years with DeAndre Hopkins and Nico Collins. Those guys just don't drop anything. But are there knocks against him, Rob, at all? I did see he had a lot of contested catches, and I heard one scout say he doesn't get enough separation, so that's why he's having to make all of these contested catches.
Yeah, I would say maybe that's a little bit, but then you look at his combine numbers, and certainly he ran a very good 40 for a guy his size. The other drills did very well. I know his athleticism score, while not as high as Noel's, which is off the charts, was very good. You could say that, but then again, they put him in a lot of contested throw situations. Like I said, he's the guy that, especially with the tight end, their top tight end was injured last season. That you look for him in the end zone. You find him one-on-one, you throw the ball to Jayden Higgins, and he's going to come down with the ball. So they created a lot of contested situations for him. I think he's such a good route runner, and couple that with very good speed for his size. I don't know if there is a knock, but I guess you could say that's a knock, but I Bleav he'll dispel that pretty quickly.
Yeah, one story that you have to love. There's a guy that comes out of nowhere, and he was a 2-star recruit out of high school. And if anybody's wondering, he is no relation to Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins. They share the last name, but no relation, even though they're both listed at 6'4" to around 215. So very similar looking guys. Is there anything, Rob, you can tell us about him personally, behind the scenes, how he was as a teammate?
I know his teammates raved about him, and certainly nobody, and especially in this day and age with NIL and everything else, is going to, even before, nor should they have ever been upset with a guy that's trying to protect his professional stock. Jaylin was the ultimate teammate at Iowa State, along with another guy who, played his heart out, but isn't really a pro guy in part because he got injured all the time. For Jaylin to become such good friends with Jayden tells me a lot about what he is like behind the scenes. Front facing with us, he just smiles a lot, doesn't necessarily say a lot, but you can tell he's having a good time. He loves playing football. And that's another thing that's a hallmark of head coach Matt Campbell's deal at Iowa State. You're not going to get a whole lot of 4-stars, let alone a 5-star at Iowa State. But if you get guys that, quote, love to play football, as Campbell says, he'll take that any day and develop them. And clearly Jayden took some steps forward at Iowa State and is just a fun-loving guy. I think, while you might not get juicy quotes out of him, he'll be fun to talk to just because he's got that type of energy about him.
One of the cool things is draft analyst Dane Brugler had Higgins as the 5th best wide receiver, Jaylin Noel as the 6th best. So those guys, according to some analysts, 2 of the top 6 guys in the draft. Let's move to Jaylin. What makes him so special? Start off on the field, Rob. What's so special about him as a receiver?
His speed and his ability to get to full speed, I think, is huge. I mean, you look at a guy built for, I can't remember who said it, but one of the many draft analysts made the comp. He's like Julian Edelman with more athleticism, significantly more. I mean, just the knock. I'll start with a knock on Jaylin. He had a couple high-profile drops. Drops were a bigger issue early in his career, but again, a guy who saw the field significant time as a true freshman with Brock Purdy in his senior season, and obviously Hutch on the field as well. Every year he's built like he was sort of a possession receiver his first couple seasons, in part because of what else they had. And every year he's built up his average. I think it was right around 15 yards a catch last season. Touchdowns. I mean, he'll make contested catches as well. He just tends to be a guy, because of the routes he runs and because of his speed, that gets more separation. And because of his size, it's not a guy that's going to be like Jayden Higgins, you throw a jump ball into the end zone to. But on the field, you'll see speed. You'll see just elite route running. You'll see another guy who's willing to block, even though he's not the biggest guy. Just a guy, again, that loves playing the game. You saw it in his reaction to getting drafted.
It's just about the health of him and what it's like going forward, when he's going to be available. And imagine though.
Yeah, I'm teaming up with Jaylin, the Texans.
This is a kid that his heart is on his sleeve, He'll become a fan favorite in a hurry. Texans fans are going to enjoy watching Jaylin Noel play.
You mentioned Brock Purdy. He has a real relationship with Brock Purdy to this day. Those guys have stayed in touch?
I Bleav so. And then Coach Campbell told me the story. Well, I asked a question. He told all reporters a story about Jaylin's first season, and they pair guys up just like any team would with a certain veteran. And obviously not all receivers can get paired up with Brock Purdy. So it was, as Campbell said, random. He ran with Brock Purdy, in the summer and got to know him, and obviously became a guy who had almost 40 catches as a true freshman with Hutch back there and some other good guys, including, I think, Charlie Kohler of the Ravens, tight end. So a lot of elite pass catchers there, and Jaylin sees the field. Jaylin's the type of guy that if you're guys who have been around him, he's going to naturally form relationships with them, whether it's Brock Purdy, whether it's probably the walk-on 6-string guy at wide receiver as well.
I'm going to throw out a quote that I Bleav was from your story, Rob, on Jaylin Noel. You quoted Cyclone head coach Matt Campbell on Noel and one of his teammates. Campbell said, quote, "I don't know if I've ever seen 2 leaders who are more selfless Didn't care how many catches he had. His whole thing was, how could he impact his team and impact winning? What do you remember about talking to Matt Campbell about Noel and some of his teammates?
It's very telling because Matt obviously wants to, like any coach, he wants to harp on the leadership stuff, wants to harp on the culture stuff. And to single out Jaylin Noel, it tells you how high in esteem Coach Campbell holds Jaylin. I mean, he was a two-time captain, and he's gone through it all. Campbell will talk about this. You have to experience some failure. Well, Noel, one drop came in a game that probably would have won them the game in a 4-8 season where they lost, I want to say, all but one of those games by a touchdown or less. They just could not perform in the key moments. That was a growth point for him. I remember talking to him about that, and he just spoke candidly about how tough it was to go through it. But going through that made him a better player, made him a better teammate, made him a better person. We've seen that from the development standpoint, and you could see the elation when they win the Pop-Tarts Bowl over Miami. Again, meaningless. If they beat Arizona State instead of laying an egg in Jerry World, they're in the college football playoff. And we saw Arizona State, just about beat Texas. That disappointment just washed away. And he had, like I said, had plenty of obviously pro stock to go in the third round. But he said, no, I'm going to play in this bowl game, this meaningless bowl game. And again, he doesn't play. They don't beat, Miami in that game. I think that a roundabout way to say a lot about who he is, but loves whatever team he's on, loves the teammates he's with, the coaches. I mean, he's good with the media, loves the fans. I mean, very good person in addition to being an excellent football player.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of what he could do as a receiver, but the Texans have also struggled in the last few years to find a consistently good return guy, and he's got some electricity in the return game too, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at his average, it's great. I mean, he comes at timely moments too. He's very elusive to go with that speed. So if he can juke a guy quickly, gets up to full speed very quickly. Iowa State is a program that it seemed like for years they didn't want to return anything. Like anything's a touchback on a kickoff. You fair catch it wherever it's legally allowed. Didn't want guys punt returning. They'd had some situations in the past where there'd been some high-profile miscues, snafus, whatever you want to call them. But Jaylin Noel is so good. They wanted Jaylin Noel returning punts, whenever he had an opportunity, and trusted him to make the right decision. And again, a guy who I think he'd be very willing to be the type of gunner on special teams to come down and try to lay a guy out, on the other side of it. So, I mean, I think that skill translates just as well to the league, his punt return skill and his special team skills, as do his pass catching skills as well.
There's a clip from him at the Senior Bowl where he was asked what NFL DB he couldn't wait to go against. His answer, Derek Stingley. Well, guess what? He's about to get a lot of Stingley, which is actually a perfect prep for NFL Sundays. And oh, by the way, Rob, just a little funny factoid from Casario's draft picks with the Texans the last 3 years. See if you spot a pattern at all. Jalen Petrie, Jaylin Noel, Jaylin Smith, Jalen Reed, Jayden Higgins, and then Kalen Bullock, if you like the rhyme. But I mean, it's just, it's so funny to look at the draft choices and all these guys.
Yeah, very, very interesting. There must be something about that first name. I think there are a lot of really good, you look in the NBA too, there's a lot of Jaylens, a lot of Jarens, a lot of guys that have similar names. A lot of good athletes seem to be named Jaylin, Jayden, Jaren, all kinds of stuff.
So really want to thank you. Also, follow Rob on X at Rob W. Gray. Any final thoughts or just anything you want to plug about what you're doing up there?
No, just Cyclone Fanatic. It's started as a fan site. Now we do everything. I'm their beat guy. I was brought along because I'd done 10 years at the largest paper in the state, the Des Moines Register. And I guess I was brought in to add a sense of legitimacy, and it's just grown from there. It's probably the most visited Iowa State site beyond all the, traditional media outlets. And then the Cedar Rapids Gazette, independently owned. Not a whole lot of people up there probably care care about Cedar Rapids happenings, but it's great to see places like that still doing well in media. So support. I guess my plug is support local media the best you can.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, fans here might need to start paying attention to Iowa State because Casario seems to have a lot of respect for what Matt Campbell's developing up there. And can't thank you enough for doing this. Thanks for giving us a few minutes. I know it's busy right now, but really appreciate it.
Hey, great to talk to you, Robert. I appreciate being with you.
And hey, Texans fans, don't go anywhere, because in just a minute, I'm bringing in a USC insider on third round pick Jaylin Smith and fourth round pick Woody Banks. But before we roll on, just a quick reminder that the NBA playoffs are your chance to score big, whether you're riding with the Rockets or cheering your favorite underdog. Every three-pointer and buzzer beater is an opportunity to win at MyBookie. Place your bets live as the action unfolds. Are you feeling confident? Lock in your winnings early with our quick cash out option. Never miss a chance to turn your basketball knowledge into real cash. And hey, are you new to MyBookie? Well, then sign up today with the promo code MM50. Look at it in the description. That's right there. And it instantly boosts your first deposit. If you deposit $50, MyBookie tosses in an extra $25. If you deposit $100, they'll give you a $50 bonus. More action, more excitement, more chances to win during basketball's intense playoff season. Plus, when the games wrap up, keep the winning streak alive at MyBookie's casino with slots, blackjack, roulette, and more. The thrills never stop. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. Joining me now is Bleav colleague Nara Weng, who hosts the Bleav in Everything USC podcast. And last year, you sent us Kalen Bullock. That worked out great. So I'm hoping our luck continues with Jaylin Smith and Woody Marks. And it's great to see you again, Nara.
Great to be back on, Robert. The Texans keep drafting Trojans. I'm happy to talk to you.
Yeah, we love it. And let me start with third round pick cornerback Jaylin Smith. The Texans traded up for him, even though draft gurus found it curious. And I know NFL Network's Lance Zierlein had him as a 6th or 7th round pick. Jaylin's played outside corner, nickel, and safety. Actually started at all three spots. So I know Lance loved his versatility. He's depth in the secondary, which the Texans need since the starters are all set. So I want to start with you. What are the positives on Jaylin, and what will get Texans fans excited about him?
So the thing about Jaylin Smith is he's that rare breed, a guy who actually went to school, stayed at the same school for 4 years, got better with each year, and he's just solid and steady. Like you already mentioned, the positional versatility that he showed. So you're a guy that you can step in, play at any of the positions that you need in the secondary, and that's what he's going to really bring to the table. Now, I thought it was a little high for him to go in the third round as well. I expected him to be a day 3 pick, maybe not 6th or 7th, but 4th or 5th round pick. And so moving up to get him did surprise me to see the Texans do that, but he's a guy that you're going to be able to plug in and help you out. Now, is he a starting corner or safety in the NFL? Probably not, but you can probably get away with starting him at nickelback at times. And if there's an injury or you just need a third safety out there, you just need an extra corner, he's a guy who can fill that role because he's done it. Like you said, at USC, he was a starter at all 3 positions, and he's a guy who showed progress every year of his career. He works hard. He's going to get in there and do the job that's necessary, and he's not going to be flashy. So fans may not always notice what he's doing out there, but the positives about Jaylin Smith is that he's solid, steady, and he can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, great tackler too. Also worth mentioning, 12 tackles in the Holiday Bowl 2 years ago. With their swarm mentality, I'm sure they'll love that. He was named co-MVP of that game, and it's hard to question Texans GM Nick Caserio considering his hit rate on defensive backs the last 3 years. You got Bullock, Petrie, Stingley, and Lassiter. So until we see otherwise, you kind of trust Caserio on Smith. Nara, what's the downside on Jaylin, if there's any? I know Zierlein said he has short arms, no burst in his first 10 yards or so in coverage, even though he really liked his coverage more in man than zone.
The thing about Jaylin Smith is, like all of the USC DBs in 2024, they had trouble with contested catches. Receivers kept getting contested catches throughout the season against USC. So Smith is a little bit on the smaller side at 5'10 and a half. And so if he's going up against a bigger receiver or a receiver that can jump up for those 50-50 balls, that's where you could see maybe a little bit of a negative. And again, he was not alone in the USC secondary with that issue, but contested catches are going to be an issue when he's going up against bigger receivers or more athletic receivers. Other than that, again, he's solid. He's not going to wow you with any necessarily single trait or skill like a guy like Bullock can, because he's just not at that level of athleticism. But he's going to work hard. He's going to do the dirty work and be successful. But in those 50-50 balls, that's where you're going to see a little bit of the shortcomings.
Yeah, luckily they're pretty much set in the secondary as far as the starters are concerned. Coming out of high school, Jaylin was a 4-star who had offers from Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, Oregon, UT, and Washington. So very well thought of coming out of high school. And do I have it right that he was in the docuseries Coach Snoop with, of course, Snoop Dogg?
That's right. He played on Coach Snoop Dogg's team in that Snoop Dogg Youth League. He was a guy who actually started playing for Snoop younger than what most of those guys are who are on Snoop's team. Snoop was pretty impressed when he saw him try out, said, oh, he'll be good, but we'll see. And then the guy told him, oh, well, he's actually a couple years younger than the guys on your squad. And so Snoop was impressed. And then, of course, they had the docuseries on him. So he was one of the featured people in that documentary series about Coach Snoop's youth football league team here in Southern California. So, yeah, Jaylin Smith's already used to the bright lights of Hollywood.
Yeah, speaking of that, I mean, it's kind of interesting. Jaylin is becoming the second Texans defensive back who's been in a relationship with an Olympic gymnast gold medalist. Of course, Jonathan Owens is now married to Simone. Biles was with the Texans a few years ago. And Nara, didn't Jaylin used to date her teammate, Suni Lee?
There were rumors about that. Again, I don't really necessarily know everything about the personal lives of these guys, but there had been rumors that he was dating Suni Lee. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if that's a current thing. I don't believe it is, if it ever was a thing. But yeah, I mean, I think he's a guy who is very comfortable in Southern California, and he'll do just fine in Houston in terms of media responsibilities and things like that. So again, I think Houston's getting a good player in Jaylin Smith. A little surprising that he went in the 3rd round and that the Texans moved up to get him, but he should make the team. He should contribute as a backup, as a nickel back, in special teams. He can do all those things that help a team win.
Yeah, I can just assume that it's true because I saw it on Wikipedia, so it's got to be true. No, I checked an article and it looked like he had even responded to it or something on his Instagram. That they were in a relationship, but according to everything that I read, that was a few years ago, so it wasn't anything recent. So it's not still going on. He's still close with his old teammate, Kalen Bullock, and knows all about the SWARM acronym, famous with the Texans and what it means. I expect him on special teams quite a bit, so I'm guessing they believe he's going to be real solid there too. I want to move over to Trojan that's also coming to Houston, but before we do, for all our listeners, I want to hear your Texans takes. Let me know in the YouTube comments. You can support us and get updates on every show that drops by subscribing on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up and listen while you're out and about with your favorite podcast app. All right, Nara, right after Jaylin Smith, the Texans draft running back Woody Marks in the 4th round. They give up a 3rd round pick next year to get Marks. He plays 4 years at Mississippi State before finishing up at USC this past year. What will Marks bring to the Texans, Nara? I know you really like him, right?
Love Woody Marks. Thought he was the steal of the Texans draft. Can't believe he went as low as he did in the 4th round. I thought he was a day 2 pick for sure. And I was surprised that he was the 10th running back off the board in this draft. I know it was a good draft for running backs, but after the top 4 of Gent, Hampton, and the 2 guys from Ohio State, Judkins and Travion Henderson, I thought that it was a free-for-all for who that 5th running back could be, and it was basically personal preference. I thought Woody Marks could have been easily the 5th running back off the board, so to get him as the 10th running back in the 4th round. And yes, you did have to give up a 3rd rounder next year, but I think he's a guy who's a value pick anyway if it was a 3rd round, if you had drafted him there this year. So the thing about Woody Marks is he is just an all-around solid back. Like, he's not going to necessarily have that top-end athleticism, so he's not going to run away from guys necessarily down the field and break away those huge runs. But he's a guy who's just going to do everything you need to do out of an NFL running back. A great pass catcher, a guy who caught a pass in every game of his college career, except for the final one when he got hurt on the second drive of the game for SC against Notre Dame. So 56 straight games, which was the active longest streak in the nation before it stopped when he got hurt against Notre Dame. So he made a catch in every game of his career. Isn't that what NFL people are looking for out of running backs? Guys who can catch it out of the backfield. And he's a good runner. He's a guy who didn't just pad his stats against bad teams, had 100 yards on 13 carries against Michigan, and also showed something big in that game when Miller Moss fumbled. Kenneth Grant picked up the fumble, was rumbling with it, and he got tracked down by Woody Marks, who ripped the ball away to get the possession back for USC. So he's hustling as well in those kind of situations. He had over 100 yards against Penn State in that game. That should have been a USC win. The thing about Woody Marks as well is that he's a good teammate. He's a guy who is really well liked by the guys at USC, even though he only spent 1 year there. And what I do on my show is that every week with my guests leading up to a game, when we preview the game, we have a prediction segment. There's always the player we believe in. Of course, we work for the Bleav Network, so the player we believe in every week. In 10 of the 12 games last season that Woody Marks played, he was picked by either me or a guest as the player we believed in for that week. So that tells you all you need to know. Best offensive player in 2024 for USC, a guy who should have had even better stats if Lincoln Riley would have just run the ball more, which he should have done. So I think the Texans are getting a great one in Woody Marks.
Hey, look, I said the Texans had to take a running back in the mid rounds. I even suggested the 4th round until they had traded away their 4th round pick, but of course they got it back. Dameon Pierce has struggled, and he's in his final rookie contract year. So This is perfect for the Texans. He's a 3-down back, Nara. Definitely love this. He's only fumbled, if I've got this right, in 608 carries once in his college career.
That's correct. One time that he fumbled in his career. So you're getting a guy who's got great hands, a guy who's going to contribute in the pass game, a guy who's going to track down guys who steal the ball away from you. I mean, you're getting everything you want out of a running back. Yes, he's not 6 feet tall. He's not 225 pounds. But I think Woody Marks is going to have a very successful career as an NFL running back. And I think, again, the Texans steal of the draft for them.
Couple of fun facts about Woody. He got his bachelor's in kinesiology from Mississippi State and was pursuing a certificate in gerontology at USC. Woody's mom and brother recorded his games and took notes. So he didn't just get the coach's film session in college. He got the family film sessions as well. He got critiques from them. And then his given name is Jaquavius. The nickname Woody is from his grandmother because he loved the movie Toy Story growing up. And he wore a Woody costume for 7 straight Halloweens. Is this news to you, or you already know this story?
We know all about the Toy Story love for Jaquavius Marks. And again, Jaquavius, not necessarily a hard name, but it is exotic. And as someone who has maybe an exotic name myself that people seem to have trouble with, even though it's literally 4 letters and 2 syllables, I can see why people like to call him Woody, because that rolls off the tongue a little easier maybe than Jaquavius. But a great story that he loved Toy Story, dressed up as Woody for Halloween all those years. And again, like Woody, I think he's a steady winner and he's going to contribute a lot. Now, if you're going to ask about any kind of possible downsides to him, he does need to get a little bit better, I think, in pass protection, because, again, he isn't the biggest guy. So sometimes he did get run over by guys coming in on blitzes. And so that's maybe one thing to get better at. But obviously, I think he's a great all-around running back who can really fit what everyone is looking for out of running backs in the NFL today.
Well, he's going to be here for that mini Trojan reunion, so it should be fun. He's at Nara Weng Sports on X, of course. And tell us about your show. Anything else you want to plug as well?
Yeah, Bleav in Everything podcast, obviously covering all USC athletics. If you're looking for me on X, like you mentioned, at Nara Weng Sports, NARAWENG Sports. Also doing play-by-play on various things here and there as well. So you can maybe catch me doing some of that But yeah, of course, Bleav in Everything podcast, part of the Bleav Network.
Fantastic. Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate you taking the time with us.
Oh, you got it, Robert. Again, your team keeps taking Trojans. I'm happy to come on and talk about them.
Perfect. And also, I want to remind our listeners before I go that I'm going to have some more of these, a little bit more on some of the draft picks and some experts coming in. So keep an eye out for that.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.